day, he became the most revered president since Abraham Lincoln. To many of his contemporaries, Roosevelt was the ideal man and statesman, both a president who grappled with modern problems and a charismatic leader who symbolized the people's highest ideals. As a third-party presidential candidate in 1912, running against the power and tradition of the two-party system, he achieved the impossible. Although he came in second to Democrat Woodrow Wilson, he beat the well-financed Republican incumbent William Howard Taft, polling the largest percentage of the popular vote ever won by a third-party candidate in U.S. history. His popularity extended beyond politics, for he was admired as a celebrity who stood for cherished beliefs, and as an intellectual who reinterpreted the nation's past. From the 1880s, he wrote for popular magazines, from the Ladies' Home Journal to Youth's Companion, telling tales of his own adventures and giving advice on how people should conduct their lives. His readers were entertained and instructed by his articles about manly sports, proper family relations, who should go west, and good books to read on safari, all of which made him a highly paid and sought-after writer. When the Boy Scouts looked for the perfect role model to present to their young recruits, Theodore Roosevelt came to mind. Clearly, large segments of the public found him believable as a cultural authority. In 1913, when American Magazine took a poll to find out who was the greatest man in the United States, T.R. won hands down. It is a testimony to his lasting popularity as an engaging national figure that in 1979, another popular magazine, Newsweek, featured him on its cover as a perennial American hero. Among modern presidents, it is T.R. who inspires the most active fan club, the Theodore Roosevelt Association. His life provides enough engaging material to inspire Broadway plays and movie scripts, and heavy traffic at historic sites. But he left a more substantial legacy than mere popularity and entertainment value. Today he is heralded as the architect of the modern presidency, as a world leader who boldly reshaped the office to meet the needs of the new century and redefined America's place in the world. Theodore Roosevelt is alive and well in our memory, remembered as both an honored political leader and one of the most picturesque personalities who has ever enlivened the landscape. When the name of any historical personality slips into everyday usage, guaranteeing a knowing and amused response from the public, our vision of that personality is inevitably blurred. Whenever a figure in history has been canonized by generations of hero worshippers, as Roosevelt has been, it becomes harder for scholars to assess the real person beneath the image. His image blocks our view of him. Too often we see T.R. only as he is on Mount Rushmore, a larger-than-life monument carved in stone, unchanging, far from being flesh and blood, and quite imperturbable. Yet we know that Theodore Roosevelt, the person, must be separable from T.R., the mythic creation of American culture. As a master politician and cultural leader, he helped create his own legend. And therefore, he provides any biographer with a special challenge. From the start of his political career, his presentation of himself was shaped by his awareness of public scrutiny. He became a skilled politician who enjoyed playing to the crowd, shrewdly championing themes that evoked warm responses. His attunement to audience approval often carried over into his writing and private correspondence. His awareness of living his life for public consumption even crept into his relationship with his 6 children. He wrote them what they called posterity letters, self-conscious missives intended for eventual public exposure. He expected, correctly, that the letters would be published, so he wrote them not only to stay close to his children, but to look good in the judgment of history. As a result, he left a selective record of himself, much of which is well suited for use by admirers. He was most likely to censor himself during the years when his public role was largest. For example, he wrote his autobiography not long after he ran for president on the Progressive or Bull Moose Party ticket in 1912. In it he purposely concealed the moments of pain, introspection, vacillation, regret, bumbling, self-doubt, and vulnerability, which other, less public records show he had. Rather than explore his own torturous journey toward maturity and political understanding, he defended his record. Even his second wife, Edith Kermit Caro Roosevelt, admitted that her husband was often motivated to avoid facing grim realities about himself and others. She wrote his sister Anna Roosevelt Coles, "He is not a nature who ever cares to talk over painful subjects." Escape and flight from pain provided familiar devices to protect himself from his own strong emotions and from unpleasant facts he wanted to avoid. Roosevelt preferred heroic themes to psychological reality in the stories he told about his life. A talented biographer and historian himself, he sought to keep his inner life and less attractive traits well hidden. He also encouraged his friends and authorized biographers to tell an upbeat, socially acceptable, stiff upper-lipped version of his life. Many of his friends and biographers obliged him. He began, and they perpetuated, the myth that by force of will he cured himself of asthma. They perpetuated, too, the myth that from his minor post as Assistant Secretary of the Navy, he maneuvered the United States into war with Spain in 1898. Books about Roosevelt are often rich with dramatic adventure and colorful scenes, just as the bull moose would have wanted. His life story attracted many guardians. Family and friends edited or destroyed embarrassing letters and hid family secrets in order to keep the story of Roosevelt's life and times presentable. He cast himself as a hero in the many stories he told about himself. He shaped the plots and chose the virtues he would embody. As a young man well read in James Fenimore Cooper's and Francis Parkman's romanticization of the Western pioneer, as well as the dime novel's simpler portrayal of Western cowboys, T.R. styled himself as a new Leatherstocking, the lone hero who stood for innate morality in the midst of nature. As he headed west to lead the wild, half-adventurous life of a ranchman, Roosevelt entered the hero land of his favorite literature in order to become a hero himself. He outfitted himself in buckskin cowboy garb and made sure he was photographed in it. Left unquenched by his Western adventures, he looked elsewhere for testing grounds. His appetite for derring-do was insatiable. He also suffered from what Mark Twain called the Sir Walter disease, the eagerness to emulate the knights of yore chronicled by one of 19th-century American men's favorite authors, Sir Walter Scott. Steeped since boyhood in stories of chivalric knights and military daring, T.R. saw his long-awaited crowded hour of battle in the Spanish-American War as a chance to transform himself into a Galahad. His self-aggrandizing book about the war made the conflict sound so much like a one-man crusade that humorist Finley Peter Dunne joked that it should be renamed Alone in Cuba. But the Rough Riders exalted more than one man's ride to glory. It celebrated the deep bonds between men forged in the melting pot of war. Roosevelt believed the War of 1898, like the Civil War, inspired a new spirit of brotherhood and nationalism. He saw his men as knights of the Roosevelt Round Table, who, like King Arthur's loyal band, wagered their lives together in battle, hoping that side by side they might gain high military distinction, fighting for a high ideal. When he advocated universal military training and teaching of military drills in the public schools, he sought to unify his country by stamping a whole people with the mark of Galahad. Most significantly for American history, Roosevelt fashioned himself as a heroic political leader, a fearless champion of the people. In reality, his days as a politician were filled with sedentary desk work and often tedious meetings, yet T.R. persisted in seeing himself in politics as a bold knight leading a life of action and daring. Office work would have palled on his spirits if he had not seen it in a heroic light, for he believed that any man who became a time server in politics or any other